Keep in mind that many of these shovel-ready projects aren't going to have the stimulatory impact and aren't going to have the job-creating impact that you think. Included in shovel-ready, at least now, and it depends upon who you look at. A lot of them could be resurfacing. Resurfacing doesn't create the kind of jobs that concrete jobs do. You look at expanding a new highway, adding capacity, add a new route, add a bridge replacement, major widening, etc. Compared to a resurfacing, reconstruction, adding capacity, is a 22% more jobs created per dollar than in a resurfacing. You start dedicating the money towards real shovel-ready, real projects, you're going to get a more stimulatory job-creating impact. And also consider that in those shovel-ready projects, there's $650 million for converter boxes. There's so many projects in there that you don't consider shovel-ready, but they're in there. It's a little different terminology. With the stimulus package, what we're saying is that the dire situation facing the industry, 15% the yellow, 15% decline this year, followed by another 15% decline. And then the economy is still rather weak, a modest recovery in 2011. That's prevented. That you will still get a decline this year, and we're looking at about an 8 or 9% decline compared to a 15. Because those shovel-ready projects don't really materialize till the end of the year. And a lot of those shovel-ready are not concrete intensive. It's, again, you get a boost in actual concrete and cement consumption in 2010 compared to a decline with no stimulus. Because that's when you start seeing more of the construction coming forward. That's when you start seeing the real hard infrastructure materializing. And then 2011 and 2012, we continue to make gains. And if you look at those gains, those are 5 to 6% gains annually. 2010, 11, 12. We are still not anywhere near our previous past peak. It's important that we look beyond the near-term crisis. The industry has to deal with it. There's no question about that. But every cycle is temporary. Famous economist once said, you want to look at why a recession develops, look at the excesses that were created in the past boom. And that's what recessions do. They correct those past excesses. And those excesses will be corrected, and then a recovery will come. Those stimulus initiatives, you can't give a $700 billion bailout and we're going to give more. You can't give an $800 billion stimulus without expecting tax increases and higher long interest to develop. And that will offset some growth. But you know what? What we're doing here in a stimulus is being duplicated across the world, in Europe, in Canada, in Japan. That will bring about a recovery globally. And then some of those structural realities that we saw before, $140 a barrel oil, those will rematerialize again. They'll come back into view. And you overlay that likelihood. It's going to be a couple years out, 2 or 3 years out. But you overlay that likelihood with the green revolution that's coming. We are clearly going on the green. So while we can look at this area here, you've got to recognize that as you go forward and we work our way out, demographics is going to help us. And then you overlay that with the green, and we think that concrete is positioned well. You know, you look at this graph, and you look at our single-family housing projections, and you look at that deep trough that occurs in 2007, 8, 9, 10. And I look at something else. I look at that yellow line, because that's what demographics suggest housing should be. And once we get out of it, once we start generating jobs again, home prices are going to be lower. Interest rates will remain relatively low, at least for a while. And then you're going to get the combination of stronger jobs and stronger affordability that will release pent-up demand. You could see some strong growth materializing in that housing sector. And keep in mind that that housing sector is going to be overlaid with this green revolution. You take an ICF home, it saves 1/3 in terms of the space heating, and space cooling, compared to a frame house. And energy and green is going to be important. Yeah, it's going to cost an extra 19 tons per home to build. But that's a 10-year payoff because you're saving 2 tons of CO2 per year after year after year. The average home cost lasts 50 years. So you end up saving 92 tons. 92 tons per home. It's green. Concrete's there and it's positioned. We'll add to our outlook in terms of 9 million tons a year, potentially in 25 years. And add on top of that these demographic changes that are occurring. We're going to add 50 million drivers between now and the next 25 years. Just to maintain our current standing, we're going to have to add, expand our highways by 25%, just to maintain the same congestion levels. And I think about it. Not only are we going to have to build more roads, this infrastructure stuff, we've neglected it so long, it's got to be a sustained issue, and I think it will be. And look at what's happening in terms of concrete's competitive position. You know, when gasoline prices went up dramatically. Bitumen, liquid asphalt, didn't go up anywhere near. And if I'm a refiner, you know what I'm looking at? Instead of that spread being about $14, it started climbing up to $50, $60 a difference between these high-valued light crudes and the cheap asphalt sludge. And I start to think, can I capitalize? And I can. I can add equipment called cokers, which actually refine a barrel of oil so that there's very little sludge left. It all goes to the high crudes. And then they started adding cokers. And when you start adding cokers, there's less bitumen, there's less liquid asphalt. And that drove up the prices. And as these continued, these are billion-dollar programs. Once you start, you don't pull the plug. It's coming. And once you do that, there's a potential that 1/3 of today's asphalt supply disappears. Now you tell me what that means in terms of costs. It means that the 350% increase that you saw in asphalt over the last 5 years, and it may abate right now, not only because oil prices have come down a bit, but also because the states aren't paving. They don't have the money. And that's sheltering things. But once those are gone again, once the economy, the world economy is back, and we start paving again, we've got them beat. We've got them beat not only in terms of the life cycle, we've got them beat on the initial bid. We're positioned. We're positioned in terms of green. We're positioned in terms of demographics. The outlook is good. It's hard to see that right now, but it's out there. Open it to questions.